Hello, welcome back to the studio. My name is Dan Shelley, a professional paintball photographer. In today's episode, I've got the content phenom, Matt the Gym Rat. Matt has over 250,000 subscribers on YouTube, millions and millions of views on TikTok and other social media platforms. And in this episode, we dive into how he creates content. We get a look inside to his brain. And then we also talk about how he does this for a living. He actually creates content and plays paintball full time. Let's jump right into it.
Photographer of the Year, let's hear it for Dan Shelley, Shellda Photos.
Of the Shellda Podcast. And before we dive into today's episode, I just want to give a quick shout out to my two show sponsors. First and foremost, Hormesis. Obviously, seeing I'm rocking Hormesis. It's been such a dream come true working with Alex and Oliver. And whenever I think about Hormesis, for me, I can't step on the field without that headband. Like, I can forget everything else, forget, gloves, forget a jersey. But like, if I don't have my Inner Dragon headband, like I will turn around, go home and grab it. So Hormesis, thank you so much for being a show sponsor. And then the second one, BFP Gear. Junior Brown of BFP Gear and Extreme Paintball. They've been just such an honor to work with. They're literally, it's like a small town or like a small business working with them, even though they're so large. And they've hooked me up with a bunch of gear for the 2025 season. So I've got like the new JT lenses that have like the logo on them. And so it's been so cool working with BFP Gear and Junior. So yeah, thank you so much to my show sponsors. And with that out of the way, I've got the legend on the podcast, Mr. Matt the Gym Rat. I mean, I was doing some research going into the show and looking at your YouTube. I think you're 250,000 subscribers, right about there, right?
Yep.
And then I was like, all right, this guy's pretty massive. Obviously, I knew that. Jumped over Instagram, like huge following. And then I went to your TikTok. And I've seen videos in the millions. Like, that's crazy. Like, has that sunk in for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that all happened like 2021. So it's been there and past. I kind of feel washed up when I look at those videos. I'm like, man, I still haven't been able to replicate that type of views. But at the same time, I'm like really happy because that kind of gave me like a big kickstart. I've been doing YouTube for like 3 years before that popped off, or 2 years. Yeah, 2 years before that popped off. So it was just like me, just like finally getting, like that little breakthrough, like, to kick down the door. And now like the rest of it was just to, flow through. But it felt good to get those videos popping whenever it did back in the day.
Yes. So I think, I've talked to some other like creator friends and, like in the Enrique's and the Verbals and whatnot. And like when they have a clip that goes viral, right? They're getting hundreds of thousands of views. And then it sort of creates that like, that feeling like I need to replicate this. Like I need to do this more and more and more. Is that what caught the bug for you for creating, was like that first viral clip?
No, I don't. I had been creating ever since I was like really young. So like that was like that kind of gave me like negotiating power. And it really gave me some legitimacy. But behind that was just like years and years of just having a passion for creating content, and just loving putting out what I do and, building something. I always put it, people that have listened to me talk in podcasts before know this, but it's always just like a Lego set, and you just get a bunch of random Legos, you get to put it together and you make something really cool and you get to show it off, right? It's the same thing with like painting for artists and things like that. They have all these different colors in this canvas. They have a vision and they take all of that and they kind of put it together. And it's really like, that's what content creation has always been to me. And I've been influenced by a lot of other people outside, just people that I've watched, and I'm like, I can do this too. And I really just took that and, ran with it. And I've always been doing it. And just really those clips that have popped off are just kind of a product of years and years of enjoying creating content and enjoying playing paintball and really just being invested into the process of making, good videos.
Yeah, so I want to dive into that. Hey, podcast fam, I just want to interrupt really quick and say thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. Speaking of tuning in, did you know that nearly 75% of you aren't actually subscribed to my channel? So the really quick, easy, and free way to show your support for the podcast is just simply click that subscribe button below. By doing that, I can promise you I'm going to bring you new guests every single week, and I'm going to continue to find ways to continue to improve this podcast. All right, let's get back to it. Because when I had asked you to be on the podcast, I was like, I would love to talk about YouTube. And like, you were like, yes, like I will talk about this whenever you want to. And that's been for me. So before paintball, before like photography here and, the podcast, like I consumed a ton of YouTube. Like Casey Neistat was my big, like, he was my person I watch, and I see you smiling. It sounds like, who Casey is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I was really inspired by him, and like, I started a vlog, long time ago, and I got 10 videos into it and stopped, right. Cause it didn't feel right. And so it sounds like something for you at some point clicked when you were watching other creators. Like, is there a specific creator that you were watching, or like who do you consume on YouTube other than like paintball players and media?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have so many that I watch. I mean, like I literally, if I could look at my hours on YouTube, I'm sure it'd be in like the tens of thousands, just from like as many people that I've consumed. To start, like I think Christian Guzman and like Max Tuning were big ones. And for the people that know that they're fitness vloggers, they just did vlogs. Christian Guzman started Alpha Elite and then 3D energy drinks, which those are two really popular. Or 3D was popular, but Alpha Elite was also one that was like rivaling Gymshark when at their peak. And he's also got like the biggest gym in Houston, Texas. That's got like, it's massive, but like he was the big guy. I'd always see him putting out videos, and like I was like, oh wow, this guy's just going throughout his day. Obviously, like he had some factors that drove his content, like his business, and like he would do bodybuilding shows and stuff like that. So you would see all of that, but like deep down, he was just a normal guy that was like applying himself, and that's like really clicked for the bug. I was like, okay, I want to do this. And even before that, it was like my friends made dancing videos and they looked really cool. So I made dancing videos back in middle school. And then in high school, I was watching supplement reviews because I wanted to get bigger and stronger and faster for football. So I started doing supplement reviews because I was watching all these supplement reviews. And then like to get into the vlog, it was Christian and Max and people like that. They were just filming themselves, go to the gym, pursue their passions, and kind of just like be themselves in front of the camera. And then going into paintball, it was really like Ronnie. Ronnie was the big one that was just like the big guy at the time that was just filming himself playing paintball. And I was like, well, I've done all of this before. I've got a GoPro sitting at the house. I might as well just start doing YouTube or like paintball videos. My brother's like, why don't you make one? That was the thing that kind of started. He's like, why don't you make a paintball video? He's like, you've got the GoPro, you filmed it. And you like making videos. And so I was like, all right, yeah, you're right. So I started doing that, and then, that was really cool. That was like my first video that did really well. Like I'd had a couple other videos that had done okay. My supplement reviews always did well because it's a small community on YouTube, but it has a large audience. So like all my supplement reviews got like thousands of views. And then when I did paintball, I was like, oh wow, the first video I posted got like 400 or 300 views. I remember in like the first 2 weeks. And I was like, that was so much because I was used to getting 30 views on a video for like fitness vlogs.
It's like you went
so
viral.
Like that was I know. I was like, oh wow, people actually like this. So I was like, okay, let me continue doing this. One, I already enjoy making YouTube content. Two, I already play paintball, and I enjoy that. So I was like, why not just like be committed to it and do it? And that's what really like took it off. And that was in 2019. So like before that, I'd also been doing gaming content. So just streaming on Twitch and just like building up that like the consistency of posting. So have a good game, let's download it, let's edit it, and let's post it on YouTube, let's make a thumbnail. That was another part of it. Like that was in 2020 2017, 2018, 2019, I was doing all of that. And then, you know, it's just always creating content. I always felt like that was like the thing that I enjoyed doing. And then just started playing paintball, and I was like, all right, let's continue to do it. People actually watch these videos. So, you know, that was always a good feeling to actually find something that people enjoyed. And then I like took a step back and took an assessment of paintball itself. And I was like, wow, this is a niche sport, niche community, and there's not a lot of creators. So this is something that I could do well in if I apply myself and continue to try and grow and improve.
Wow. So, it sounds like you were kind of born to be a creator. Like you've been doing this essentially forever, it sounds like.
See, it's like, I don't think about it like that, because I've always like had like career goals in my life, you know, like I've always had a goal to do stuff, and I've never looked at content as like I wanted to be the best, you know. I always just made videos and posted them. And I never thought that anything would come of it. I never planned for anything to come of it until I started getting paid, to be honest. And then I was like, okay, you know, like let's reinvest the money. Let's take the money and put it back into the videos. Let's pay Will to come out and film. Let's pay for the flights. Let's pay for the paintball. And I just started reinvesting it. And then I was like, oh, wow, you know, like if I just tweak these things, if I just made a better intro, if I just, you know, told the story better, you know, if I cut down on the slow parts, if I looked at my analytics, like I could make really, really good videos. And so that's what I started doing. And it really took off. I remember like the first time I applied it, like that video got 10,000 views, and I was like, oh, okay. So like this video is doing, you know, my videos at the time would get like what you see like Jackson's or Austin Slay's videos get like the 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 views, like the ones that like they're true paintball vlogs. Like, hey, we're at the field today, we're going to play paintball. And people like, that's the audience you're going to get, the 3,000, 5,000, 6,000 views. And then when I took that and kind of tweaked it a little bit, oh, wow, like 10,000 views. And that was like, I only showed half of a tournament. You know, I did like the first part of the Chicago in 2022. I did first part of Chicago, and then part two. So like people were coming in with like half of the knowledge, but you know, I came in, I made an intro, you know, told the story, put some really good music with it, cut out all the slow parts, had some really good parts, and then made an outro. And it's like, wow, I got, you know, 2 to 3 times more the views just by doing that. And I was like, oh, okay. So, you know, that's all it takes. And then I was like, all right, let's start applying this. Let's start making the thumbnails good. Let's start, you know, scripting out everything. Let's start making sure everything flows, you know, spending a little bit more time editing. But yeah, it was just like one of those things that like I never really saw myself to be like a creator as a job. It was always just like a pipe dream, you know. I more or less just made content because I enjoyed making it. And then once it was like, oh wow, like this can be tangible and can be real, it's like that's when I started taking the steps to be like, okay, let's make really good YouTube videos. Because it wasn't because I wanted to be a full-time content creator, it's just because I wanted the content to do better. And I knew that if it did, like that would be a byproduct of it.
And this was all happening when you were still working full-time as an engineer, right?
Yeah, I was in school at this time. So I was, you know, taking classes. I was working. The school would only let you work 28 hours. So I was working 28 hours. So working, studying, school, and working out. Like that's, and then I would go home and edit videos. so
it's nonstop. Yeah. I think,
and then, yeah. Yep.
That's something, you know, I think, a lot of people who aren't really familiar with creating content, like they see the video that you put out, and it's like, you know, here's a 10-minute video or 20-minute video, or on your second channel, you know, the longer editions of it, and they only see that. They don't realize how much goes into the background of that, and like the editing, creating the thumbnail, you know, even writing out like story points. It sounds like you have just such a passion and a drive for every single part of that creative process. And that's,
yeah,
you know, whenever
it's
good.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's never quick. Anything that I do, it's never I wouldn't say easy, but like straightforward. People might think that like the videos that I put out are just like they come just naturally, but it's a lot of me sitting right here, like where y'all seeing, and like looking at my computer screen and be like, all right, how do I make this work? Or like I take these clips that I don't know if I'm gonna make a good video out of or not, or I don't know what the story is gonna be, and I make it work, right? I sew things together. Okay, this can go with that. All right, this overlays that, well, this clip fits better here than there, but it's not right, so I have to make it work. Oh, the music's not right, I want the music to drop here, not there. It's just all of that stuff, and I'm like intertwining it, and I'm like, all right, let's figure out how we can take all these little pieces, all these little strings, and make it into like a big blanket.
Yeah, that's what I love so much about content creating is you have to juggle so many hats, right? Like you've got to be an editor, you've got to write it out, you've got to be a storyboard, creator, you've got to be a music editor, you've got to. There's so many different hats that you've got to wear, and it honestly, like, it teaches you so much about yourself too. Because I bet as you're going through that process, you're like, oh, you know what, like, I'm not the best here, but if I focus a little more and learn a little bit more about the music, like the ups and the downs, maybe I could tell more of a story. Do you go through that process too?
Yeah, it's like anything that I want to do. And I guess that's like why the videos do so well too, is like what I stated before, but like I've watched, tens of thousands of hours of YouTube. And like every single time I watch it, I like listen for those keys and those little things. Like, all right, like how loud was the music right here? How did they transition to the music getting louder? What did, and I even do this, like I watch movies and I do the same thing. All right, how do they transition clips? Like, are they still talking while the next clip transitions? Like, how are these things working? How loud is the music compared to the people talking whenever the action's on versus like when it's not? Why are they not playing music at this point? Things like that. It's just huge, because like those are all like things that people have learned and applied over time. And like the best movies, the best YouTube videos, like the best of anything, you can really like break it down and understand, okay, this is why it did good here. This is why this was so captivating. This is why Mr. Beast is the best. This is why Steven Spielberg is the best. And you can really see those things once you start breaking it down, like analytically. Okay, why is this happening? And that's really what I look at. It's like why. And then I kind of take that and apply it, and whatever sticks, whatever works sticks, right? So I like find those things and make it stick once I realize that it's successful and that it does work. And then I continually build on that. So it's like, okay, this works. Like we're talking about the intro. Okay, if I do a good intro, like this works. Okay, if I put suspenseful music, it's going to make people feel suspense. Did we beat this team 5-0 in a point? Okay, well, let's make it fast because nobody wants to see us shitting on people for 12 minutes. Let's boom, 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 5-0, we're out. Next one. Like, let's make everything fit in the story and concise, and don't leave too much fluff in. It's just stuff like that. You build on it.
Yeah, I think the key word that I want to really pull out there is story, right? And I think your mind, you're thinking when I'm creating, maybe it's the World Cup video, how can I tell a story here? And I think your viewers, I don't know if they necessarily know that you're creating a story. They're just like, oh, there's a hook, and like I want to know what's coming next, and I hear the music, and they're just consumed by it. How do you do that with paintball content? Because I think, I could sit down here and I could turn on my camera and I could tell a cool story, but I know what I'm going to talk about. But at a paintball event, like, you don't know what you're going to do. You don't know what the weather is going to be. The wins and losses could be injuries. Like, how do you prepare to shoot content at a paintball event?
Yeah, so I try and capitalize on like anything that's there, but in truth, I really analyze this from like a very far out approach. So like imagine you're just like floating in the air and you're like looking down on life in general, and like there's a story to everything, right? And the good stories are the ones that usually people will attach themselves to and listen. And some of the best stories are sports. Like this, like you could take any football or like any sports match and make a story out of it. And I realize that like there is like, it's competition, right? It's people putting their best up against somebody else's best. Like nobody goes out there and plays half-ass. And if they do, that's part of the story, right? Because the other team is not playing half-ass. And I realized that like, like every single competition that you ever compete in, or that you ever compete in, or anyone competes in, has a story. It has implications, right? There's a win and a loss. Like it's not always the same in life. Like, oh, I didn't make my coffee today, so my loss is me having less energy, right? So like people don't care about that. But when it comes to paintball, it's like it's defeat, right? Like you don't get defeated in life if you don't drink your coffee. You don't get defeated in life if you skip a meal, right? But in sports, you get defeated. And so like that's the story. And a tournament is constantly trying to fight to stay in. And so like paintball, that is the story, right? Like I don't have to have anything scripted out for a tournament because I can script it all out afterwards, right? Like I've learned to do things at the tournament to make sure that the story flows better. Like introducing teams, talking about like what's happened before, like I like leverage for the World Cup video. Hey, we played them twice and we actually practiced them right before this tournament. And the last time we played them, we beat them in the semifinals with 1 second left on the clock in overtime to go to the finals. And like that says so much there, right? Now you're like, okay, well let's go see what happens, right? Let's go see what happens with when they play leverage for the third time this year, right? So like that helps make the story flow. But you can't really control anything in a tournament. You can only control like how you play, and then when it comes to content, you can only control what's really in front of you. So what we're gonna do, how did we lead up to this? And then it happens, and then you talk about the recap, and then you really go in afterwards, and that's where you hear the voiceovers of me talking or like the little things. And it makes it easier with what Will does. Will does just a great job of like multitasking. Like he gets me so much pit footage, and then he's right on the field recording the point. And I'm like, I don't know how this guy is running from the sidelines all the way into the pits to record, then all the way back out to film the point again. But yeah, it's just like telling the story afterwards. And like I said, there's always a story when it comes to sports, and that's what makes it really easy. And that's why I kind of like playing tournaments with like when I do paintball gun reviews or things like that, because it's a little bit easier to attach yourself to the entire premise of the video versus just like what you want to hear about the paintball gun. So, all right, so like the CZR video, it's like, okay, I'm going to review this paintball gun, but not only that, I'm going to play a whole tournament with it. So you can see like how it performs on the field and if it can really hold up. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to get, a double-edged sword here. I'm going to get to know what's the good and bad parts about this paintball gun, but I'm also going to get to see this guy play a whole tournament with it, and then, hey, like if we win, we get $1,000. And it's like, okay, so now I want to see how it ends. So like that's huge. But like in sports, there's always a format, or there's always a win and a loss, and people want to see if it's a win or a loss, like if it's a true defeat or if it's a victory. And then like everyone can relate to that. I feel like everybody's played some type of game or anything like that. So I feel like that is more enticing when it comes to the story, right? Is that there is a true outcome and it does mean something. So
yeah, that's when I was talking with Alex Fragy a few weeks ago on his podcast, and this similar topic came up. He was like, the winners are great. He was like, I'm more interested in like the losers. Like I want to go hang out in their pits and like watch all the emotion, watch grown men crying, watch, them going over to their girlfriends and wives and they're getting consoled because there's just so much emotion that they're putting into this game. And all that is a story, really. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's how you capture that. And just to jump back really quick, so you keep mentioning this videographer named Will. I just want to give him a huge shout out. Will, or he goes by 40 Media, is insane. I had the opportunity to partner with him a few years ago on a project for, I think it was Outlaw Anodizing. I think we like shot 3 or 4 of their teams, and you're right, he's just a machine, and you can see it in your content of just how much he's doing.
Yeah, it's literally, it's just him. Like all the videos that you see, it's either all that I film either with my GoPros or my regular camera or my phone, or it's Will filming everything else. Like all the gameplay footage is from Will. Like I would love to pay another person to stand in the pits and film for me. But most of the time I wait till the last minute to do it, so I never get it. So Will does a great job of just like literally just, doing everything that I need. Every intro recap. It's just he's there. So like he is awesome, and like he's made a name for himself in the sport, not only by working with me, but like the work that he puts out now. Like if you look at his TikTok and his Facebook, it's insane. Like I think he's got almost 200,000 followers on Facebook, and then I think he's like well over 200,000 followers on TikTok. So like his content is like that he just puts out by himself, of not me, but of like people playing, it speaks for itself.
Yeah, it's crazy what like what you can do with content. And one of the things that I'm always fascinated with because I've seen other like vloggers and creators at events where they've got like the GoPro on their mask, or it's like attached to a barrel or whatever. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you specifically is, how do you switch it? Like, how do you switch from, hey, I'm a content creator, to now I've got to go step on the field and play with my team?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think there's ever, well, like there definitely is a switch, but I don't ever looked at it like a switch. So it doesn't affect me. It's just like, I have to do this before I play the match. I have to do this after I play the match. And it's one of those things that like, it's not the end of the world if I don't get it. Like, it's not the end of the world if my GoPro doesn't work. It's not the end of the world. It would be the end of the world if my GoPro didn't work and Will couldn't film. Like, that would be the end of the world. I'd be like, oh my God, what the fuck? But yeah, like that, and I'll be honest, like that gives me a lot of purpose, is like the content, man. Cause like what was it? It was the other day we were playing a 3-man. It was just a Toys for Tots 3-man. And I really want to do a video on with the Axe 2.0. And I was like, oh man, this is gonna be a great video. Like the mini GS video did great. This one will do good. Yeah. We got a good chance to win because I'm playing with the boys. And I never got the paintball gun in time. It was supposed to come in on Saturday, and it went from right outside Charlotte to all the way in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So it went from like 30 minutes away to like 400 miles away. So I was like, oh my God. And I just felt like obviously like I didn't play any different, but I was just like, the whole day is kind of like a wash for me. Like I had fun, played with my boys, but like at the end of the day, like I didn't have any content out of it. And so like that was the thing that I was like, like this, like the content really is what drives me. But I don't ever see it as a switch. It's definitely like the hardest part is dealing with like people in between those periods, right? And I don't mean this like this sounds awful, but like I want to be focused. I spend time by myself right before the matches, and I'm like, all right, we're focusing, or I'm gonna stretch, I'm gonna warm up, I'm gonna listen to music. And like when people want to come up and talk to me and say, hey, what's up, and I never turn anyone away, but like that's me time, right? Like that's the time that I want to be by myself or either with my team, focusing. And I'll still talk to people, but I'm like, I'll be very respectful with too. Hey man, it's nice to meet you, dude. Take the picture or whatever. Be like, hey brother, I got a match coming up. So I'm gonna just get focused up. It's nice to meet you, man. But I'm just gonna do some me time. And people are completely understanding with that. And even harder than that is after we lose, and I have people that come up to me and want to take pictures with me like immediately after. And like Chicago was a good example. We had just lost and got knocked out in the prelims. And, that was the tournament that was going to make or break us. If we were, if we had made Sunday and made a good run in Sunday, we would have been like top 4 for semi-pro. But we lost to the Sea Dogs and got knocked out. So it was like one of those things. And we walk off and we're going to shake hands, like literally as soon as we lose. And there's a kid and like 3 guys that are like, hey, Matt, can we take a picture with you? And I'm like, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that's the hardest part. World Cup was another one we lost, and I'm literally sitting there crying my eyes out because I felt so good about it. And a guy came up, he's like, hey Matt, can we take a picture? That's the first time I've ever told someone no. I was like, hey man, give me a second. I was like, I'll catch up with you later. And I'm like, hey man, give me a second, I'll catch up with you later. And I was like, I felt so bad at the same time. Like sometimes you got to look out for yourself, and it sounds selfish to say, but at the same time, like you don't have to deal with that stuff until you're like in those shoes, right? Until you're at that spot. And so that was a big thing that I'm like constantly navigating. But at the same time, I never want anyone to feel like it's because of them. Like it's never because of you. It's always because like, hey, like this is where I need to be. This is what I have to do. This is what I'm going through. And that was it's really funny because I actually you saw the video that I did with Ronnie, where I went and hung out with him. Yeah, so like he first off super like this guy. I think Ronnie is like the best host I've ever had because he is so excited that I was there. He was like, we can go there and eat, or we can go here and eat, or maybe tomorrow we can go eat. And I was like, Ronnie, my flight's at 11. I have to, I have to be at the airport at 10. He's like, oh, so you don't want to have pizza tomorrow? And I was like, at 9 a.m. in the morning, I'm good, Ronnie. So like, he's just like, he wants to take me everywhere and do everything. He's like, when are you coming back? And so like, I just want to say like, Ronnie is like one of the best hosts, and he's definitely like a very close friend of mine now. But, I told him, like, man, the first time I ever met you, I got the cold shoulder from you, dude. And he was like, what? And this is the first time a lot of people are hearing this, which is cool. But like the first time I ever met Ronnie, the guy that made me want to start vlogging, and I literally named my first vlog series Davies Docs after Ronnie with the Dizon Docs. Wow. So I met him and I'm like, hey man, what's up, dude? And I was like, dude, so it was funny because I saw them walking and I didn't notice that they were Heat. And I was like, Paintball, because we were walking to a Five Guys and they were walking to a Chipotle in Orlando. So we're walking by, and this is the first time I've ever met Ronnie. Walking by, and I see them, and I'm like, Paintball. And then I realized, I was like, oh, that's Houston Heat. I was like, Houston Heat. They're like, what's up? And I was like, hey, Ronnie. I was like, dude, I watch all your videos, dude. I love them. And you actually inspired me to start my own vlog. I was like, my name's Matt the Gym Rat. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, this guy gives zero fucks about what I'm saying. But when I sat down with him at his house and I told him, he goes, man, I'm really sorry. He's like, what year was that? I was like, I think it was 2019. He's like, I didn't play at all that tournament. He's like, the year before I was stunting on the field. And that year I just sat on the sidelines. And he's like, I was so bitter and mad. And I said, I immediately, okay, I know exactly that feeling, because in Texas, we got second, and I didn't play a single point the whole tournament. I literally stood in the mud in Texas in 2024 and did not walk on the field. I filled pods. I cleaned people off. I aired up guns, but I didn't put my mask on once to go out there and play. And I immediately was like, I know exactly how you felt, and you are 100% okay. I was like, I'm glad you told me that, because if not, I was just like, Ronnie's an asshole, you know? Yeah. But he's not. He was just feeling some type of way. And I immediately connected with that. And that is 100% what I hope to never do. But at the same time, I know that one day I will come off to someone like that. And I hope that they understand that I'm just a person that is feeling emotions. And sometimes it's hard to hit that switch whenever you're in a dark spot or you're in a tough spot.
Yeah, I mean, what a full circle moment from that first interaction to like years later staying at his house and shooting content together. Like that's,
yeah.
If someone told you in that moment, like they pause your life, like, hey, hold on a second, Matt, you're actually going to be, shooting content with this guy later, you'd be like, you're crazy. This guy's an asshole.
Yeah.
I'd
have been like, cool. He doesn't like me. Why would he want to do that? But no, he was like, yeah, I was just going through something at that time, and I just really, wasn't feeling it. And I was like, yeah, I could immediately relate to that. So I was like, that's awesome to just hear that and him tell me that. He's like, I'm really sorry. I was like, dude, you don't have to apologize anymore. I was like, you telling me that was enough for me to be like, I completely just let everything go,
It was probably so validating for you, because you probably were able to relive that moment of like, wow, someone I might, you always hear like never meet your hero. Mm-hmm. And like you kind of just had that true for you until you had that validation from Ronnie.
Yeah. That's 100%. So he's been super apologetic about it. And he even told me, like, we hopped on Discord the other day and we're talking, and he's like, yeah, I kind of reflected on that. And he's like, I was like, dude, I said, you don't even have to think twice about it, bro, because I've been there. As soon as he said it, I was like, I've been there. So it's all good.
Yeah. And, I think I met you, 2.5 years ago now at Bunker Fest, I think, for the first time.
Yeah.
And that was really the first time like I was exposed to, some of your content too. And I don't think I realized the magnitude of your following, because walking into that booth, I just kept hearing like, that's Matt the Gym Rat over there. Like, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, he's a paintball player. And then like I obviously, I knew and started to consume your content and built relationship. And now here in Texas, at my home field, we've got a group of kids that just started playing this year. They're 12, 13, 14 years old. One of the kids is wearing your Matt the Gym Rat, one of your jerseys. And I was like, oh, they're like Matt the Gym Rat. And I was like, I know him. He literally got starstruck from me saying I knew you. It's this kid, Gabe, like he's such a huge fan of yours. And so where I'm going with this is when I see you at these large events like NXLs, I see what you go through of like, you're just trying to walk from your car to your pit or your car to your booth, and you're literally getting stopped every 10 or 15 feet. And you're doing it with a smile on your face. And that's so hard sometimes. Does that, like when you started content, did you ever think you'd be signing autographs or taking pictures with people?
Yeah, no.
Is it still weird for you?
No, it's not weird anymore. I actually like I love it, man, because like that's just like a lot of people don't get the opportunity to like live the life that I'm living. And so I'm just so grateful like every single day. Like people don't understand like how excited I am to get up and work, or how excited I am to meet other people or talk to them or do whatever they need me to do. Like sometimes it's hard to do certain things, or like especially like some of the gifts that I get sometimes from people. It's like, awesome, man, thank you, but like this is gonna go into the bin, like I'm not going to actually use it. It's going to be in like the thank you bin. But yeah, but besides that, like it's literally just like a dream come true, like every single time. That's why I'm so happy to meet most people, is because I didn't think I'd be doing it. I don't think a lot of people would think that they'd be where they're at. Most people, it wasn't until I really started like realizing that I was beyond blessed, that I started really appreciating it as much as I did. Like realizing, hey, like we only have a short time on earth. I was like, okay, I want to do the best that I can with what I have. And I was like, I'm going to pick one thing, two things, and just be the best at it. And then I started doing that. And really, like when I started meeting people, and I'll be honest, like I think it was 2020, I met like the first person that watched my videos, and I had like 200 subscribers. The guy was like, "Oh, I watch your videos, dude." And dude was older than me, but he was like, "Oh man, I came out here because I watch your videos." It was like in Charleston. We were playing paintball in Charleston. He drove down from Myrtle Beach, and it was just like a 2-hour drive. He's like, "Oh, like I watch your videos and I saw y'all out here playing, and I came out here." He's like, "That's really cool." I was like, "That's awesome, man." But ever since that interaction, it's been so fulfilling to meet those people that say that. And so like I never, I never take it for granted. I'm never upset about it. Obviously, like I mentioned, like there's certain times when I'm not in the mood for it, or like I'm not in the right mindset. But like besides that, man, like it's a true blessing, and I will never be upset about meeting someone or having those interactions. And I respect people, man. That's like, I feel like that's a thing that's kind of lost in today's society, but I never looked at it like that until my coach said that. Because they were talking about overshooting, and I was like, man, I wouldn't do that to anyone, because I don't feel like that's what I would want to happen to me. And he's like, you have respect for people. And I never looked at it like that until he said that. And I was like, that makes sense. Like all the people that I meet, they're literally living, they have the same 24 hours that I have. They breathe, they work, they do everything that I do, except for in a different facet. And I was like, there's no reason why I should never have respect for these people. Granted, they're 10 years old, 8 years old, all the way up to the guys that are in their 70s that come and talk to me and tell me like how they used to play back in the day. Like I always will have respect for those people, and it's just, it's that simple to like have that and give that to people whenever you meet them, because like what I talked about with Ronnie is like, I went through that experience, and I said, I never want to have someone have that experience, and obviously like his experience, like his reason for doing that is very validated, because I knew that. But at the same time, I was like, I would hate for someone to have that type of mindset for me. And I'm sure somebody does, I'm sure I probably cold shouldered someone, and I did not mean to do it, or I was like, I had to be somewhere. But like, I never want someone to be like, I met Matt and I don't like him, or he's a dickhead. And I was like, I want to have respect for people, so they have respect for me. And that, whenever they talk about Matt the Gym Rat, that it's hopefully good.
Yeah. I mean, the respect totally comes through like in your content too. Like you can see that, right? I think we've all seen creators, and especially with you, consuming hundreds of thousands of hours, you can tell who's passionate about the content they're creating, or if they're just doing it for $1. And the respect that you have for not only just content creation, but the sport as a whole, like you totally can hear it in your voice, in your videos.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, I don't know, dude. I've never been the one to like, I do call people nerds, but I feel like that's a very PG version of what I could say. But like I never took it too serious, and I feel like that allows me to have a lot of respect, because if you take it too serious, then things are black and white. Whereas me, I have like this huge gray area. Oh, maybe I shot him, maybe I did. Maybe he's cheating, maybe he's not. Oh well. It's like, it's okay now. If someone starts talking about my mom or something. I have had times where people have put me into the black where I'm
Sure.
like, all right, this is wrong. It's not supposed to happen. I don't like you anymore. But most of the time I'm playing in the gray area of might have not. I don't really care. I'm just going to do what I got to do. Right. And that's really just one of those things. I feel like it, as long as I take myself seriously and I take what I do seriously, but I don't take what other people do out there as seriously in the form of the how I react to it, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, oh, the guy cheated me. Okay. Oh, this guy's talking shit. Okay. But yeah, it's like it's one of those things that allows me to keep the respect, because if I take it very seriously, like everything they say, everything they do, then you lose that respect, right? Okay, this guy's a cheater. I don't like him. So I don't know. It's just one of those things where I never let it affect me too much. So I'm very loose with everything, and that allows me to continue to have the respect all the way through. And just like the content's the same way. I take it I take the content very seriously, but at the same time, I know that it's the funny saying, we can fix it in post.
Yeah.
So it's like, I take the content seriously, but what I get is what I get, and like we'll put it together at the end.
Yeah. I mean, I think the takeaway there is you're still finding a way to be a kid in all this. You're still having fun in all of it. It's like I see that so much on my level too, is even just being a photographer, right? Like I'll step on the pro field and the starstruck that you have, I've experienced that from my shoes, where I've had other photographers like, oh my God, I was so afraid to like talk to you, or like I was so afraid to approach you. And I'm like, please do. Like, I'm just out here having a good time. And some people just, they, talk themselves out of a conversation, and you never know where that conversation's going to go. Like, who knows if you never said hi to Ronnie, who knows if you would have ended up working with him years later. So
yeah.
Just fascinating.
I always get upset when people are like, I saw you, but I didn't want to bother you. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, if it looks like I'm really focused, I was like, come up and just say like quick hi or something. I was like, if it doesn't, if I'm just walking, like come up and say something to me, dude. Because like I have the same like checklist that I go through with everyone, but it's intentional, because I do care about like whoever I'm talking to. Like, hey man, how's it going? Where are you from? What are you playing? Those things. But like that's like you, and that's who you are. And so I want to know like those things when I meet people. And so like when people are like, oh, I saw you, dude, but I didn't say anything to you, I'm like, I was like, how do you know when's the next time we're going to see each other? It's like, how do you know you're not going to be my best friend in a year or two, right? It's
Exactly.
like,
Maybe
those
your
are
teammates.
things. Yeah. Those are things that I'm like, dude, just like, come talk to me. Like, I've learned that too. And I guess it's part of maturing, right? Like, you learn like, oh, these people really don't care. Like, I can come up, introduce myself and say, what's up, and most likely for your shoes and mine, if we're introducing ourselves to someone in paintball, they know who we are. Right. And so like that's another thing. Oh yeah, I do know you. And it's like, okay, why was I so scared to talk to this guy in the first place?
Yeah. The joke I always tell people is like, we all pick our nose at some point. Like, we're all human, it's like everyone does that kind of stuff.
100%, dude. I pick my nose. I'll be honest.
See, that's the viral clip right there. Man, that's great. One of the things that I wanted to dive into, because I know you said you're like obsessed with YouTube and the creating part of it, starting this podcast, obviously, there's an application called YouTube Studio. So like for people who aren't content creators, aren't posting on YouTube, there's an app built just for creators where you can literally see every single piece of analytics, the views, when does somebody click off your video, the male to female ratio. I get obsessed with that. I'm only imagining you probably are to a whole nother level. Like, can you tell me how you use that to your advantage?
Yeah, let me pull it up just so I can see mine. Because there's like it's hard for me to pinpoint like what I actually look at. Pretty much anytime it goes down, you try and figure out why it goes down. Anytime it goes up, you try and figure out why it goes up, and then you try and do the things that go up more and the things that go down less for any analytic. Now, my views, I'm okay with, because I know a lot of it's like virality for the shorts, stuff like that, and shorts really convolute for me how my channel is doing, because I'm so focused on the long format stuff.
Yeah.
But for a lot of it, it's like let me pull up my analytics. The biggest thing is, retention time. The longer someone watches the video, the better the video does over time, right? So that's the biggest thing. But the click-through rate I look at for the thumbnail, like how many times are people clicking on it for the thumbnail, so I can see like it tells you your average and then how that video is doing. Also, what I look at is the intro. So it usually tells you like your intro, how long people are staying on. So that really helps me analyze like what should I do in the intro? Should I have the subtitles popping? Should I not? Should I put sound effects on it? If I'm playing music, if I'm not, what I said in there, is it B-roll or is it me just talking? Like that's what I look at. And then I look at the dips and the spikes. When does it go down? So like what happens? A lot of dips for most content creators are ad reads, right? I skipped the ad read. So like that's automatically, okay, I'm taking a dip here, but I know why it took a dip. But besides that, if I'm seeing a dip, it's like, okay, why am I seeing this dip? What did I do wrong here? Is it because I've been talking for too long? Is it because the gameplay was boring? Is it because, something isn't right? And then the jumps. Okay, why is the video going up right here? And I've learned a lot through that to find like, okay, this is what people want to see. Okay, this part that I did right here was an excellent climax to what happened. Or a lot of it is, oh, I showed this in the intro and now it's happening and people are watching it. So it's like, okay, so that was a good thing to put in the intro because it made people want to see this part. So like, what was it? The mask video that I did in the beginning of the year with the Temu mask all the way up to the carbon mask.
I remember that.
So that one, like the views are really high at the end. So I see a spike at the end. So like the retention time, it tells you, you go from 100% at the very beginning, because everybody obviously watches the first second of the video when they click on it, all the way down to like 30% towards the end. And then it shoots up to 40% at the very end. And it's like, okay, a lot of people were skipping all the way to this part to see me blow up the Temu mask. So it's like, okay, that makes sense. But I also preface that in the beginning of like, we're going to put it to the ultimate test at the end. And so people are like, all right, let's see if the Temu mask breaks or anything like that. So like those are things that I look for. But I would say the biggest thing that really drives like what I'm looking at is that right there. And I can't find it for some reason, but it's it just really tells me like, okay, these intros did well. These are your spikes. These are your dips on the content that you've posted. And it'll, it gives you a long list. So that's really what I'm looking at. Because overall, like the video performance is like the biggest indicator to how your videos do, right? If you make a good YouTube video and you put a good thumbnail and a good title, like the video will do well. And I believe that. And so like my goal always has been to make good YouTube videos. And then after that is to have a really good thumbnail and title, but I always have that going into the video, right? So it's always like, okay, I know what the thumbnail and title are going to be. Then I need to know the intro, and then I go in and I make the video. I refine it. I make the video as good as I can. And then I look at that afterwards and say like, okay, how did the video do compared to my other videos? Is it doing better? Is it doing worse? Okay, well, I did this. If it's doing better, I should continue to do that and see where I can continue to improve. But yeah, like the biggest metric for me is just like how the video is doing, the retention time on it. Because that really is telling you when people are clicking off, and how long they're watching it for. And then the click-through rate for the thumbnail and the title is another thing. And always making your thumbnail as simple as possible and your title as short as possible is always my goal, because then it's easier to understand and it's easier on the eye. And then once they click on it, hopefully the intro catches them. The first 7 seconds, super crucial. After that, the first 30 seconds are really, you want to establish the video and why they should watch the whole thing. And then after that, it's really up to you to make sure that the following part of your video is keeping them there and keeping them engaged, and they're getting what they wanted to out of that first 30 seconds in the thumbnail and the title, right? So that's the huge thing.
Oh man, you can like just feel the passion coming out as you're talking about that. I love it so much. Thanks for giving us an inside look into like how you craft essentially your videos. And I don't know if anyone's ever told this to you. I hope they have, but when I watch your videos, it reminds me of watching like a Mr. Beast video, because when I watch his, I keep craving more. Like that first few seconds, I'm like, ooh, what's going to happen next? So like now he's setting me up for more. And of course, that's where the longer you're around, the more views you're getting, the longer the duration is. And I see that formula in your video, and it works so naturally for paintball and for what you do. Do you pull a lot of inspiration from him?
Yeah. So I've watched, oh man, it's like countless videos on how to make good YouTube videos.
Yeah.
That's what somebody was asking me the other day. I was like, dude, it's on YouTube. Just look up how to make a good YouTube video on YouTube, or like look up how the best creators make videos, and it's literally it's like all right there. Like you can do what I can do easily if you just apply yourself, right, and you seek out the information. Yeah, like just I could pick up one of his videos and look at it real quick, and I always look at we talked about vidIQ.
Yeah.
So like look at the outliers. So I can even pick up his and look at the outliers and analyze it next to another one and be like, okay, what did he do different in the intro of this one versus the intro of this one to make it do better? Or what did he do different in the thumbnail and the title to make it different? And then I can say like, okay, so in that time he picked up that he should do this instead of that. And then I can say, okay, I can apply that into my video. Because then I don't have to do all that research, right? I don't have to go through and figure out like, okay, like, all right, this doesn't work. This does work. I can just look at his. But also I have to remember, and I always take a step back and say like his audience is much different than mine.
Yeah.
And I always do that in a bubble of that's what he does. And, you know, this is what I do, right? So like this is Mr. Beast. This is Matt's Chimrat. And so if I get too much like him, then it's just like, okay, he's just copying what he does, right? But if you watch my videos and you watch anybody else's videos on planet Earth, they don't look the same, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's how I feel. Like I might have the same setup of like the intro and everything. But like if you watch my video, you're like, this guy is obviously ripping off blank. And I feel like that's never going to be the case because I don't ever have like a blueprint from them to mine, right? I'm just like, okay, I'm building this and I'm going to make it. This should be here. This shouldn't. So that's what I feel like that's what always feels like keeps me separated. Because if I just did everything to the T like he did, yes, my videos would do well, but I would always be in the shadow of somebody else, right?
Well, you're pulling inspiration from somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, I think somebody once said, and I think there's even a book out there. It's called like Steal Like an Artist, and every idea is essentially comes from seeing something else that inspired you to like, oh, I could do that, or like, oh, I could do that with my own spin on it.
Yeah.
And you can totally see you're putting your own spin on something that inspired you to change your content or to move it a little bit in a different way than maybe it was a few years ago. So yeah, I'm doing that too, like with the podcast, right? Is like when I first started, you know, I was on my MacBook camera, like super centered, like I was so close to it. I'm like, wait, this is not a good look. I watch other podcasts, like, all right, off centered a little bit. And, you know, maybe next year, like I'll have a completely different setup because I'll have learned more about it. So speaking of like learning, I've seen a lot of younger and older content creators in paintball that are inspired by you and they want to be a YouTuber or, you know, content creator. What's a piece of advice that you would give someone that's just starting out to create paintball content?
Yeah. There's a lot, but I would just say like, just remember to tell a good story and put it, the best way that I always look at it now is I put it like I'm writing an essay in school or like an essay is like, there's an intro, it's an introduction paragraph, and then there's your body and you have the conclusion, and the introduction's short, the conclusion's even shorter, but the body is where you have everything. And it's always set in a, you know, like chronologically how you want it. So when you're making a video, just look at it like an essay. Got the introduction. I want it to be short. I want them to let everyone know like essentially why they're reading the rest of the body and, you know, what this all is going to entail. The body needs to be juicy and it needs to be in order. The conclusion needs to be even shorter. So that, and then put your personality into it. If you never have like your personality in it, then like there's nothing there. Some of the best content creators right now on shorts, like CJK and I can't remember the other dude's name. It's like Big Stubs or something like that. They're getting like millions and millions of views, and all their videos are not of them shitting on people or shooting a ton of people. It's like them being like, you know, like funny stuff happening and then putting it out. It's like people want to see people. They don't want to see like the gameplay and the action. They want to see people doing things that are entertaining and also being themselves. So yeah, man, just build it like a good essay in school, and be yourself.
So you heard it here first, kids. Matt Gym Rat says stay in school. What are you most proud of with like the content that you've created in the past? Like,
I think it's
YouTube play button, or
I think it's to build the life that I like excited to live every day, dude. Like I wake up I woke up at 3:30 the other morning just to work. Like I just woke up and I was like, I can't go to bed. I'm thinking about making a video. I got to go work. And I've done that like over the past like several months. I've woken up at 4 and 5, and I don't have to get up at any certain time. Like all I have to do is edit videos. And I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, like tons of times just to work. And I'm so excited to do it. I'm like, oh, let's go, dude. I'm so excited. And like, I guarantee like most people cannot say that about like their 9 to 5. And that's not a dig at anyone, but like I was working a 9 to 5 a year and a half ago. I was working an engineering job and I hated it. Dude. I hated it so much. And when they laid me off, I felt like I could fly out of that building because I had so much stress off my shoulders. And like ever since then, I have not felt like that, And so like that's something that I'm like, I found what I want to do, and I found something that I love to do. And I'm so, so grateful and proud that I can do it every single day. And I think that's why I continue to grow and improve, is because I still like genuinely love doing every single thing that I have to do. The hardest part is to do it, like setting up my LLC and stuff like that. That's so painful, but like, cause I have to spend time away from editing videos or like anything like that. But like the paperwork's the hard part. Anything else, I'm just like, let's go, like, let's do it. And so like, that's the thing that I'm proudest about, is like the fact that I could take my passion and grow it and be able to pursue it at such a high level that I can call it, my career, my profession now.
Yeah, that's so cool. I'm going through that same pain right now. Now that things are starting to build a little bit for me too. Like I just secured my LLC, and there's a few other like business ventures that it's going to be part of like the Shellda umbrella that I'm working on too. And man, the paperwork and the business side of it is so like, I just want to create, and
yeah.
Luckily enough, like I had lunch with my wife the other day, and she was like, I love that. Like, let me help with that, And so, but even though it's so hard to like let somebody else help something that's so close and personal to you. Yeah. So it's cool to see that you're turning this into a whole entire business. When you look at, 2025 and the coming seasons, do you look back at the content that you created and then what could I add to this? Like, you have now a second YouTube channel. Like, is there anything that you're looking to add to your suite of content?
Yeah. I definitely want to do more challenge videos. Like, I feel like I've done a couple in the past and they've all done really well. So last year I really focused on I focused so much on being a very good paintball player, and I felt like the content kind of fell to the side. I still made really good videos, but I feel like I didn't do enough. And I really, over that year, seeing my content not grow as much as I wanted it to, really built a fire into me of like, I want this to be the thing, And so I still want to be a good paintball player, but like the biggest thing for me is like, I just want to make content. Like, that's number one in my life right now. Yeah. Like, everything else is falling behind. I want to make good ass content, and I want to make fun content, and I want to make shit that not only does well, but that everybody enjoys watching. Right. So like the Walmart video, people love that video. Or like, is the price of your paintball gun, or is the price, what is it? Does the price of your paintball gun matter? That video I did like 2 years ago on a whim. I was like, I'm going to go to the field. I'm going to just pick up a rental gun, play with it. I'm going to pick up a $500 paintball gun, play with it. And then we'll play with like a $3,000 paintball gun. And it did so good. And that day was so much fun playing with the tip men out there. And then like, hey man, can I borrow your setup? Just like going out there and playing with it. Like the Walmart paintball gun one was a lot of fun, and like playing with the mini GS in a tournament, like people love that one. So like those videos did insanely good, and they were just because I put myself up against a wall, and it was all just for fun. Yeah. And like it was fun. Like, so many people love seeing me play with a tipman and shoot a bunch of people, and I'm like, I love doing it too. So I'm glad that we're all in the same boat, So like that's what I want to do more of, is just make fun content. And literally, like, I have my goals in my phone from 2021 all the way to this year, and like this year was just to make, I think it's 25 of the best YouTube videos that I've ever made. And that was the goal last year. And I feel like I hit that point with a couple of videos, but I don't feel like I hit the point with all of my videos. So this year, I literally I want to make so many good videos that like, it's just, there's no question in your mind that every video that you click on, you're going to enjoy watching. And so like those challenge videos I want to take, I want to, replicate what I was able to do in the World Cup video. That's almost at 300,000 views. And it's a 22-minute long video.
Which is
I want to
crazy for that
replicate.
long.
Yeah. I want to replicate that in every single tournament that I play in, and I want to be able to do that constantly, and consistently. And so like, that's what I want to do in 2025, and I've been able to set up a couple things to where like I can make that happen, and I'm going to be able to make that happen. And the only thing is up to me to, one, go out there and play, and two, to make the video interesting and the editing and all that. But yeah, 2025, definitely I want to do more challenge videos, and I want to make all of these tournament videos that I do just the best tournament video that you've ever seen in paintball. Because I feel like I did that with the NXL World Cup video. I feel like I was able to take the essence of that tournament and just turn it all the way up to 100 and just leave it there the whole time. And you're like, this is a fucking paintball tournament. And that's what people are gonna hopefully see in every single video that I put out. So
yeah, I for sure felt that. Like I could tell how you elevated your creation for that, and you could hear it in your voice. You could feel it in the editing, like the music, like this, everything leading up to like that height of the story. Like you felt all of it in that. And when you talk about doing all of the challenge videos for next year, and like I was thinking back to all the ones that you've done in the past, the challenges are fun for you, but I think for people that are digesting your content and that look up to you as, whether you're like an idol for them, for some of these young kids, it's relatable, right? Like if I have, one of these 13 or 14-year-olds at my field, like Gabe or Adrian, and they see, wow, Matt the Gym Rat's playing with a Tipman. I have a Tipman. Like if he can do that, I can do that. So it's almost like you're inspiring them that they can do something that you're also doing.
Yeah. That's I've also looked at that, because I feel like a lot of people are going, when you want to buy something, like a lot of times you seek out knowledge on it, or you seek out something like a review or anything like that. And I feel like a lot of people go to the mini GS for their first paintball gun. So when they click what's the best cheap paintball gun, and they see Matt the Gym Rat's video of I played a paintball tournament with the cheapest gun, and they click and they see the mini GS, and like, oh, I was just looking at it, let me click on it. Hey, guess what? I'm going to tell you everything about the mini GS, but I'm also going to play a tournament with it. And they see me shooting people, like, this validates every question that I had. And then I also, in that video, I cover why you're going to get rid of it. Like it's not going to be as good as the other ones. And once you get the bug, like you're going to sell it and you're going to get another paintball gun. Right. So like, I feel like I covered every basis with that. And that I feel like is why that video did so well, is because like, one, how many mini GSs do you see posted every day that people are selling? Right. Like I see all the lone wolf stories, and like they're selling 5 to 10 of them every single day. Right. So it's like people are buying mini GSs out the wazoo, and it's like, okay, well, now I'm seeing that paintball gun is obviously popular. I want validation on why I should buy it. And like, I feel like that added a ton of it to it. That, and then just the premise of the video is cool. Like playing the paintball tournament with the cheapest paintball gun, and the thumbnail is just the $300 sign with me shooting the gun. And so you're like, okay, so I know how cheap the paintball gun is already. And I can see the guy using it right there, and they click on the video, and in the first, 15 seconds, they see me shooting the paintball gun at a paintball tournament. So like, oh, that's the video. Oh, and he's going to tell me like why the gun's good and why it's not. It's like, okay, I'm attached to it. One, he's playing a tournament, so I want to see how he does in it. Two, I'm invested into the paintball gun. And three, I know everything I'm going to get out of this video by clicking on it in the first 15 seconds, right? So like that, I feel like is why that video did good. But also, like you said, the relatability of like, I'm interested in this paintball gun, or I have this paintball gun. I bought this paintball gun because it was so cheap, and this guy's playing a paintball tournament with it, right? So those are the things I feel like adds to it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly. And you had touched on it earlier, and I just didn't get a chance to circle back. But like, whenever I'm looking for any product that I'm doing research on, whether it's a microphone or a camera or literally anything, I go right to YouTube and I go, I'm looking for the content where they're not just unboxing it. Like I want to see how they use it a month later. I want that like 6 month, do I still use this? What do I think about it after I put it through a tried and true test? And I feel as a consumer, I'm more apt to buy it when I see that. And I think when you're doing your videos of like, of playing a tournament with the marker, I think that's where other companies are starting to see booms in their sales of probably what you're putting out there.
Yeah, and that's a good feeling too, because then I don't have to go and buy a $300 paintball gun.
Exactly.
So just send it to me, please. Hopefully.
Yeah.
But yeah, like hopefully, like I feel like that's what's driven a lot of the sponsorships and things, and that's why I'm able to work with the companies I am that I do work with, is because I feel like I can just make all the products relatable, or at least like give a good knowledge base before you go in and purchase it. And that's just me doing what I feel like I should do as a content creator, right? Of like, especially if I'm doing paintball gun reviews, because like those aren't going to stop. Of like, hey, like this is why this paintball gun's $1,650 for like the R5. Like I did that video, and it's just like, this is why it's $1,650, and this is me playing with it. And I like to improve on those. Like I think the 180R video, I played a whole tournament with it and like did the review, and like I love that, and I wish I could do that more. Obviously, being ranked semi-pro now, it's not as easy to go play local tournaments anymore. So that was kind of a bummer when I realized that. But at the same time, like I'll figure out ways to make it really fun. I feel like the MXR video I did a really fun time with, of just like seeing if I could destroy the paintball gun, and then going out in the field and literally playing with it right after I tried to destroy it. But just like continue to improve on that. And that's like the biggest thing that I tell like a lot of the people I work with is, like give this to me and I will be able to make or help these people make informed decisions when they're looking to buy it, right? And that's all I plan to do. Like whenever you see the sponsorships, it's not for me to sell something to you. It's for you to be informed when you do want to go buy it, and like for you to understand like, oh, do I want this paintball gun? Do I not? And then also for me to make it creative, make it fun, show you like me just playing and having fun with the paintball gun at the same time, right? So like that's my goal whenever I'm doing the reviews and stuff. It's just to inform you. So it's never, my goal is never to sell anything. It's always just to inform people. But yeah, like that's a huge part of like why I make the videos, and like, why, I'm able to work with these companies.
I mean, that points back to like your North Star of why you're creating paintball content in the first place. Like you're not doing it for money. Like, yes, it's providing, food and a living for you, but you're doing it for the passion. You're doing it because you enjoy it. You're doing it because you want to help other people make informed decisions. And, I just had Ryan Greenspan on, and he is a marketing genius. Like that guy has done so many different brand deals in the past, and how he ties it into Dynasty and his own brand. And he kind of goes into his episode a little bit where he's like, when I first started, I would just take on brand deals, but then I realized like, wow, I hate this company. And you see that, like you see it come through. And so he learned like, I've got to be passionate about something else or what I'm doing. And then that sponsorship comes after that. And you can see you're doing that.
Yeah. I think Birdman's a big one that I was like super happy to work with. I'm really skeptical about working with companies. And I never want to take on too much. I think I only have 3 concrete sponsorships this year. So like you're only going to see at most, one of those 3 in the videos. But like Birdman was a big one, and I'm glad like it's been working out really well. They've been really happy, but like they just came to me and they're very professional, which was like the first checkbox. They were like, hey man, like we see that you went to Clemson University for engineering, like
done research.
You watched your videos. We actually sat out on a Google meeting and like face to face with them. So it wasn't like through emails. And then like they're on Amazon. They have a huge Amazon landing page. Everything is like super minimalist. Everything looks great. Like looking at their Instagram, everything was good. It all checked out. And then I looked at their products, and that was big because I'm like, okay, supplement sponsorship makes perfect sense for Matt the Gym Rat, who's an athlete and works out all the time. And it was like, it's vegan. Okay. Like I've taken vegan protein in the past and it was awful, but I'm lactose intolerant. So like whey protein right now is not the best thing for me. So I got their stuff and I was like, oh, this stuff tastes amazing. And then for me, I'm like, okay, I'm trying to eat whole foods as much as possible. They have no artificial sweeteners, no colors, no artificial colors. Like they're flavored from cocoa and like monk fruit, I believe is what it is. So like nothing in there was like stuff that like people are trying to steer away from, and that's stuff that I was trying to steer away from. So I was like, oh wow, like this one is aligning with me in a lot of different ways. And then it also was approved by me because I was like, this stuff actually tastes good. It doesn't taste like crap, because I worked at GNC for a whole year. So I've tried like so many different types of proteins, and from like 2016 to 17, I worked at GNC for a year. So I worked like 40 plus hours every week in there. So, and a lot of people don't know, when you return your your protein to GNC, we just dump it out. So I would like take a couple scoops home and try whatever protein I had, And so I was like, okay, this is awful. And I remember trying like all the vegan proteins and just being like, this tastes like sand and like dirt. And I'm like, I'm going to throw it out. But I had theirs and I was like, oh wow, it doesn't taste like dirt. I was like, it actually tastes good. And so I was like, yeah, I'm like, let's do it, and they don't have a ton of expectations from me. And they were just like, you do you, like we are big on you having creative freedom. So you send us what you want to plan on doing and we'll approve it, and then you do it. And it's been so easy to work with them. And they've sent shaker bottles for the whole team. They were going to send shirts for the whole team one time. They've sent like protein for the whole team. So like they are 100% into supporting everything I do. And like that just made the world of a difference to me. Like if it's one aligns with me, and then two, like they are behind me, and three is like they just give me the freedom, right? So it's like everything just aligned perfectly with them and how they conduct themselves, and me and how I conduct myself. And that was awesome to like be able to find a brand that reached out to me and wanted to work with me. And not only that, but like they have the infrastructure to build and make everything just as grandiose as possible. Like they just got into Sprouts, which is awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, so like they're definitely taking the right steps to grow and become more popular, and like that's awesome for me too, because that adds a lot of validation of like, hey, they're in a national supermarket chain. Now, granted, Sprouts doesn't have a ton of locations, but like what Sprouts is.
I know what it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say what it is. So you could go in there and find Birdman on the shelves right now. So like that was awesome to see that. But yeah, like that's one of the things where, like you said, like you never want to take on brand deals that you don't feel good about. And I always told myself at a young age is if I ever got to that point, I would never do anything to sell out, And I actually ran into that a while back, and I haven't told anybody, but like DraftKings reached out to me to work, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. And so I'm in my head, I'm like, I'm doing DraftKings. But at the same time, I'm like, I am so against gambling that it's like, I've never gambled in my life besides Vegas. Like last year we went, I was like, and we did the penny slots. So I was like, I'm not losing a bunch of money. I was like, we'll do it just to say I did it. But they reached out to me and I was like, okay, sports betting and everything like that. And then they were like, are you okay with doing the casino or the DraftKings? And I was like, okay, maybe it's like a sports games. Like they have different casino games for sports. Like if this guy does good and you roll a 14 or whatever, you get money. And so I was like, yeah. Well, it turned out just to be like a gambling casino app. And so I was like, oh man. So I went through everything and I sent him the thing. And then I sat there and man, I thought for like days and days. And I'm like, this is not me. I was like, no matter how good the money is, this is not what I want to have on my video. And I was like, I'm going to look back at this in a year or two and be like, that money is gone. And I am so mad that I put this in my video. And so I hit him up and I was like, I don't want to do it. So I had gone through the whole entire process, editing the video, filming it, signing the contract and everything. And I was like, I don't want to do it. And I looked through the contract and it was like, it was fine if both parties agreed not to do it. Sure. So they were like, well, if we did it with DraftKings, would you be okay? And I was like, yeah, like there's sports betting and paintball. I feel like that would be a little bit better. It's sports content, but they never got back to me. And I'm 100% fine with it because now I'm looking back at it and I'm like, I don't think I even want to put DraftKings on there. Like that would add a ton of legitimacy to me as a creator. But at the same time, like it's not who I am. Like I would never tell someone to go DraftKings a bet because like that leads to addiction, and then that leads to like one of the like an awful addiction where you have no money. So I was like, I don't even know if I would want to do that. So I was like, I felt really good that I stuck to who I was, even though I was about to go through it. And I was like, man, the money would be nice. Like, dude, I haven't had a car for 6 months. So I was like, the money they're going to give me, I could have put towards a down payment. I was like, that would have been awesome to be able to do that. But at the same time, I was like, it's not who I am. And I was just like, I can't do it. So I turned it down. And, but like, it's one of those things that I felt really blessed in that moment to be like, I had the opportunity to work with them, and I said no. So I think that was a really good. It was a a roller coaster of emotions, but at the same time, it points directly back to what you said of like you get those brand deals and you're just like, I don't even like this stuff.
Yeah.
I've never done this in my life, So and those things are really taking over because sports betting has been, normalized. But at the same time, if you do it responsibly, awesome. But for me, like, I just feel like it can drain so many people and so many relationships and so many things, and I would hate to be the root of that cause. So I'm like, it definitely, if it came to my lap now, I'd probably just say no, just because I feel like I'm much more comfortable and much more content with where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, some of the most powerful things you can do especially in your shoes, or like if you're a paintball player or a paintball team, is saying no. Just because somebody reaches out to you or a company reaches out to you, like, you can say no. The short-term payoff may not outweigh the long-term. And it's a hard thing to do. Like, saying no is so hard sometimes. And, I had a few companies reach out asking to sponsor the podcast, and I wasn't passionate about their companies. Like, they've got cool products in the sport, but like, I don't want to talk about that every week.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. And I think like synergy is another thing too. Like, I really look at it from synergy. Of even if I'm not passionate about it, I feel like it works really well. This chair actually is one, the Ewin. So they were like, hey, we'll send you a free chair, which obviously, like, this is a $400 chair. So I was like, okay, like that's worth it. If you do an ad read, and I was like, I've been wanting to do a video where I played every paintball video game, and I was like, this is like, the synergy is there. Like, I don't have to be passionate about it for me to say like, hey man, if you want a really nice gaming chair, which I'd bought my first ever gaming chair, and I was like, it's time for an upgrade. My brother needed a gaming chair. He'd been sitting in like a folding chair for forever. I was like, I'll give him my old one, I'll get a new one. I was like, it'll fit perfectly with the video of me playing every Greg Hastings video game. I was like, that synergy is like there. So yeah, let's do it. It's not too much of a detriment to me. Like, I'll profit from it. And it does not, I don't feel like it takes away from the video too much. That's something that, yes, synergy works, but that's another thing. Like, conflicting morals and the synergy are the two things. Like, morals, synergy, and the product itself. Like, those are the three things I look at. Like, is it against my morals? 2, like, is the product good? Is it worth it? And 3, like, does it synergize with the video that I'm going to put it in, right? Because if I was like the gambling video, I think it was going to be in the Temu video. So I was going to be like, hey, if you don't want to gamble on your products from Temu, you can go gamble your money. And I was like, yeah, it ties in, but like, that is not synergistic with the video at all. And I was like, that would be awful. But like, if it can draw synergy, that's awesome. Like, that's another thing that, like, I didn't know about the product for this, and it wasn't something I was super passionate about, but I knew that it was synergized and I would be able to get a new gaming chair out of it. So I was like, this is a big purchase. Like, you've got one, so
totally,
it's like,
I've dropped some money on this a few years ago.
Yeah. See, so I was like, like, it'll be synergistic with the video, and I'll be able to profit off of it somehow. So like, that's something that definitely I was about, like, I look at too, as a synergy. So
yeah, I love that. It's like, for me, I always look at synergy as the same thing as like a relationship. Like, do you feel that synergy in a relationship? And, when I had spoken with Junior from BFP Gear about this, he was just like, whatever you want to do. You kind of said earlier, like, he gave me creative control. I'm like, are you sure you don't want to have like an ad in here or like an ad read? He was like, whatever feels right for you. Like, you can talk about our company, talk about our products. And that gave me like, I just felt that creativeness, like, oh, cool. I can now go create and like talk about a brand that I already love and I'm passionate about. It's like that synergy is already there. And, the cool thing with that sponsorship is he calls me every week, and it's just more of like, hey, I love the show. Like, he geeks out about it. And so like, it's a sponsorship that's also a friendship. And that's kind of the best way to have it if you can get to that level.
Yeah. And that also says something about like your work that you've done, right? For them to have enough confidence in you saying like, just do it. Like that's the
Yeah.
big thing that I had with Lone Wolf is like they came to me, and then I continuously like just proved myself to them, and they're like, dude, you've got it. Like whatever
Yeah.
you're doing, just keep doing it. And so like that was huge of them. And that's probably what Junior does too, is like he realizes that like he's listened to your content, and he
Yeah.
sees it, and he's like, man, I mean, you're doing a great job, just keep doing it, right?
It's trust. You're building trust with that
Yeah.
person and then you are, as a creator, you're now able to do your job even better because they trust you.
Yeah, and then you can really freestyle, you can try stuff, you just know what you have to do because it is you, right? It's not like you're, oh, let me go back and look through my notes, make sure I say it right, or I messed up, we got to do a second take. It's really just like, it's so easy for me to do a Lone Wolf plug now because I've been doing it for so long, and it's just what like I've came up with every single one of those words that I say, and it's like, it's not me reading off a script or what they told me to do. It's just, it's just me.
Yeah, and I've seen you guys interact. I forget the gentleman's name, but I've seen you interact at the events, and you could tell that like there's a friendship there. It's not like just a business transaction. Like you genuinely care about each other.
Yeah.
And those are the best type of sponsorships.
Yeah, man. Yeah, those are the ones that like you could tell both parties are mutually benefiting from, and that's huge. Like that's the best type of relationship you can have, is when you're both benefiting, and then you can both just be yourselves and enjoy each other.
Yeah, totally. Man, Matt, this has been awesome. I've ended all of my shows with, there's another podcast that I like. It's called Diary of a CEO. He's incredible. What he does is he always asks his guests a question from a previous guest. And so I had on Ryan Greenspan last week, and he asked a question not knowing who the next guest would be. And so it's cool. I've got a question for you. And then you actually get to ask a question for my next guest without knowing who it'll be. For some context, people have gone different rabbit holes. Some people have gone paintball. Some people have gone like really life, questions. Actually, I'm going to ask you too, because Alex asked two questions. So we're going to start off with Alex Frage's question.
Okay.
He said, given the choice of anyone in the world, who would you want to have as a dinner guest and why?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Wow.
Could be past or present too.
Yeah. I don't know, man. So like, I feel like the obvious answer is like Jesus Christ. Like, I feel like a lot of people would say that. But for me, I guess I'd have to go like deep into it. I guess let's just say Mr. Beast. I think that would be a good one, because then I could just pick his brain about stuff the whole entire dinner. Yeah, let's just say Mr. Beast. That's such a YouTube thing to say, but yeah, like I think that'd be a cool one.
It's a YouTube thing to say, but also like spending this last hour and 20 minutes with you, like I see so much passion in you, and I see so much like, in a good way, I see how much you obsess over YouTube, and I see the exact same thing from him. And that turns back into the passion of your creation of your content. And so that would be such an incredible dinner conversation for me just to like listen and as a fly in the wall. And then the second question, and this is the one from Ryan Greenspan last week. This is coming from a perseverance aspect. He said, in the face of adversity, what was the biggest challenge that you faced, and what was it that motivated you to allow you to persevere through that challenge?
I think the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life was graduate college. That probably sounds like such a white kid thing to say, such a gentrified thing to say, but no, like the arduous task of consistently applying yourself. And like a lot of people don't know this, but it took me 7.5 years to get a 4-year degree. Because I'm definitely, I wasn't passionate about it, one. And then two, I'm an awful student. So I just continuously like headbutted a wall trying to get to where I wanted to be. And that, what really drove me, one was my family. My mom really wanted me to get a degree. So, that's what drove me.
That's awesome.
And then after that, it was what really kicked it in gear was the ability to keep playing paintball, because you got to have money to play paintball. And so
Smart. See, it all ties
that
together.
was,
You got to find your why.
yeah, that was the thing. Because I was like, if I get a good job, dude, I can go play anywhere I want to. And if it's like really good, like I don't have to work on Fridays, so I can go to the field and drill on Fridays and play Saturday. And then I was like, man, that sounds like the dream. And now I'm way past that, but yeah, like those two things, like my parents, and luckily, like a big thing was like I wanted to graduate before my grandma passed away, and I graduated, and then like she decided to kick the bucket like 6 months later. So I was so happy that she was able to like make it to my graduation and everything. Yeah, so that was really awesome. She went all the way to Clemson from Charleston, which is like 3.5 hours, and for like an 89-year-old lady, that's not an easy trip. So it was awesome to like be out there in the stands and look up and just see her up there. And so like that was a big validating moment. But yeah, that was I think that was the biggest thing, and that's the why.
That's so cool. And I'm sure like if someone's like told her, back then, like, hey, Matt's graduating, there's probably no question in her mind, like, yeah, I will be there. And like, I don't even care if I'm 9 years old. Like, I'm not missing that day.
Yeah. She was awesome. So I was super fortunate to be able to do that. And I always told myself that, like, I want to accomplish this big life goal and allow her to see it, but besides that, my mom and my dad, I just wanted to make them proud. And then after that, I wanted to be able to pay for paintball, baby, so I could keep playing. So
yeah. And here you are, doing that even more. So you're making them even more proud, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. What question would you like to ask my next guest?
Oh man, so I would love to go very introspectively, but I feel like Ryan's question is so good. So I would just really want to know, if you could choose one superpower, what would it be?
Ooh, I love that question, because you can go so many different ways with it.
Yeah. Yeah. What would yours be?
What would mine be? I hated flying when I was a kid. Like, I was terrified of it. But now, like flying to all these events, like I don't even think twice about it. But I think it'd just be so cool to like just fly, like.
Yeah, that was mine.
Yeah, like I've always been a Batman fan. So like I could wear a cool cape like Batman, and so yeah, I would totally fly.
we always talked about that, but we're like, what if you could make a wish, but it would be like a really shitty version of it? So you're like, I wish I could fly, but you could only fly at like 5 miles an hour, and it was like 10 feet above the ground. So it's like, this is like a waste of time. But like, you're like, I wish I could be invisible, but like you could only be like halfway invisible. So like your left leg and your right arm was invisible, or something like super strength, but it only was like from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. You had super strength, something like that. I always thought it was funny, but yeah, mine would be fly too, because I 100% agree with you. Like, I was never scared of flying, but like it would be so easy to go to the supermarket and come back if I could just fly and not have to deal with traffic.
Yeah, so. And then you got a cool view on the whole entire way.
Yeah, you could see everything. You're like, babe, how does this look on the roof? And you're like, give me a second. You don't have to go get the ladder.
Time it at the golden hour, so you get the sunrise and sunset as you're flying.
Dude, you'd be a great electrician. Just have to hang out there up in the towers. They wouldn't have to worry about you falling out or anything.
Yeah, exactly. Man, that's awesome. I'm excited for the guest next week to answer that question.
You should definitely ask Ryan's too, so you get some really cool introspective stuff like from me.
Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is because like I've gotten a lot of really good questions, and like I've been asking multiple questions just because there's some of these questions are so good. Like one of the very first question then from the first guest I had on, Sal Chavez, he does media for Dynasty and Paintball. He went the opposite direction. His was, is cereal a soup or a chowder? And that's the reaction that everybody has given me so far.
Man. See, I was like, when you sent me this initially, I was like, man, like I would just ask why, and like see what people say. But I was like, man, that might be too broad, because so initially when you asked me that, like the first thing that popped in my mind was just to ask why, But the best answer to that I always feel like is why not. So
exactly, yeah, you just rebuttal with putting it back on them.
Yeah, so I was like, let me not leave it too open ended. So yeah, But yeah, if you want to take that one too, you can always ask somebody why.
Totally,
just see what they say.
Yeah, I totally will. So cool. Well, Matt, man, it's been such a pleasure having you on, and it's such a privilege to see, because there's so many people that like look up to you and would just kill to be in here. So I know you doing this full time taking time out of your day to, to come on this. It means a lot. And I'm sure I had a ton of questions I didn't even get to. So we'll have to have you back on at some point.
Yeah, it's dangerous when we get into a group and we have more than one interest in common, right? That's what me and Ronnie talked about. Like we like paintball, we like working out, we like eating healthy, we like paint, we like YouTube. So like me and you the same way. We love making content and we love paintball. So it's like, it's like we could just talk for hours.
It's dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, we will definitely have to have you back on at some point this year. But for everyone else tuning in, thank you so much for checking out another episode of the Shellda Podcast, and we'll see you next time.